Hello friends, it's me, and today let's watch Film Theory. Invincible's worst villain is Kid Omni-Man from the Film Theorists. Together, let's go. Let's start.
Life is precious. We don't just take it.
It's not precious. People kill each other all the time, and most people aren't even special like us.
You sound just like Dad.
Do you ever think that maybe Dad was right?
Whoa there! This kid seems like he hasn't fallen far from the mustachioed murder tree. Is Kid Omni-Man being set up as the worst villain for Invincible since dear old Dad destroyed his trust? Seems like something we should answer in an episode of Film
Theory.
Hello Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that punches through pop culture harder than Omni-Man through a subway. Oh god, did he just destroy that subscribe button? So if you've been around the
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory. Subscribe.
internet the last few years, you'll probably recognize this guy. His name is
Invincible.
Yeah, Invincible, the star of Amazon Prime's other show about deconstructing the superhero genre through hyper-violence. In case you don't know, Invincible is all about Mark Grayson, aka, well, Invincible, a newer superhero and son of Nolan Grayson / Omni-Man, this world's version of Superman. But Daddy Dearest has a dark secret. He wasn't sent to this planet to protect it, but instead to weaken and conquer it.
Earth isn't yours to conquer.
Mark, of course, wants no part of this and comes to blows with Nolan over it, resulting in the two parting ways and Nolan leaving the planet. This show is awesome, taking everything audiences have loved about superhero comics and films and adding a cool, unique twist to them. Like, this isn't just a gory, adult version of superheroes, this is a genuinely great series that also happens to be bloody. At its heart, Invincible is all about power, responsibility, and family. It's basically like an independent, adult version of Spider-Man. And now that Invincible is wrapping up its third season, I figured it was time for us to jump back into the series for another theory. Yeah, back in the day, we did a theory talking about the biology of the Viltrumites. That's the alien species that Mark and Nolan belong to, and how their massively extended lifespans would affect their psychology.
You're fighting so you can watch everyone around you die!
But since that theory aired, another superpowered Grayson has showed up, Mark's half-brother Oliver. But here's the twist. Oliver isn't half human. Instead, he's half Thraxan, an alien species that physically matures very quickly. Yeah, even though he looks 10 years old or so, he's barely a year old, if that. And yet he already has powers comparable to Mark and Nolan. So that, of course, got me thinking. Oliver is able to open up a can of whoop-ass before pretty much every human his age can walk. That means that the powers of Omni-Man are in the hands of what's basically a baby. And let's just say he does not have the emotional maturity to handle them.
Too late.
Fatality.
Dang, Oliver, even the Lizard League isn't that cold-blooded. So
Okay, fatality. Finish him.
oh, in the same way that we looked at how Viltrumite biology would impact how Mark and Nolan think and live their lives, how it would impact their relationships and ultimately determine if Omni-Man was right, that their biology inevitably makes Viltrumites turn evil in the eyes of humans, I wanted to flip that script and question how would Oliver's accelerated aging impact his moral compass.
So you do recognize that his father is a Viltrumite, which is like super long lifespan, and the mother is like super short lifespan. So his lifespan is aga in between super long and super short. So yeah.
Is this kid literally growing up too fast? And are we looking at who might become the next big bad of the Invincible franchise? Grow out your mustaches, loyal theorists. Let's fly into this one. So first up, as always, just a reminder before we start, but remember that this is film theory, not comic theory. While we may take some information from the comic book source material, we're mainly going to be focused on the animated series. This adaptation is absolutely its own canon with its own twists and turns, and it hasn't followed the story of the comic one-to-one. So we're not going to just assume that Oliver's storyline is going to be the same, since, well, I mean, we know how it ends in the books. And hey, that'll also help us avoid spoilers, which is just great, so yeah, cool? Cool. Hey, Futurely here, just wanted to pop in and say that this was written and recorded about halfway through Season 3. It always takes us a couple of weeks to actually make a video, so yeah, we're always a little bit behind. But just wanted to say that since we started this theory, that the Season 3 finale has aired and stuff has happened, so we're aware. Still, I think this theory is valid and super fun science, and just sit back and enjoy. Cool? Great. So, the ways
The signs of
I see it, there are basically three main categories that should be really concerning to Mark when it comes to Oliver. His biology, his psychology, and his personality. So let's tackle those one by one to see if a turn to the dark side is in Oliver's future. That first big concern, his biology. See, just like Mark is a half-human, half-Viltrumite hybrid and gets traits from both species, Oliver is half-Viltrumite and half-Thraxan. This means
So aka he is 0% human. Alright, 0% human. So maybe the psychology, the chemicals inside the brain works differently. I'm sorry.
Means that, yes, he has most, if not all of the appearance and the powers of his Viltrumite father. That includes super strength, flight, speed, all that good stuff. But, unlike Mark, because of his half-Thraxan heritage, Oliver got his powers much younger, and that could have a huge impact on Oliver as a person. One small example, he doesn't feel pain like a normal person should, and pain can be a powerful teacher. A lot of us learn not to do things that are bad because, well, they end up hurting us. Like, oh, we don't want to pick up this hot pan, or fall down and scrape our knee, or get into an accident and break our bones because that hurts. And as a result, we also shouldn't want to inflict that pain onto others. But because
Thus, sympathy, understanding, standing from the point of view of other people, standing in their shoes.
Oliver has a much higher endurance and doesn't get hurt as easily, he just doesn't understand how bad something as simple as a stubbed toe can be for a human, let alone getting an arm ripped off. Oh god, jeez, got everywhere. Ugh.
One of the realities in the world of Invincible is that you're probably going to get splattered in the blood of your enemies, but that doesn't mean you need to be unpresentable. That's where the sponsor of today's theory comes in. Scentbird.
See, smelling good isn't an obvious part of looking or feeling good and successful, but it can make all the difference. Scents and fragrances like cologne and perfume can make you feel more confident, improve your mood, and can be good conversation starters.
Now, that doesn't mean you need to go overboard. This isn't Axe body spray. You just need the one little dab and you're good. See, right here and right here on your body are called pulse points. They're basically like the hottest parts of your body, so the oil in the cologne is going to just explode off of your body and make you smell good. This month, I got Get a Room and Order Champagne by Confessions of a Rebel, mostly because it sounded like a Fall Out Boy song. It's got that hint of vanilla that just drives me crazy. I also picked up Nosferatu by Heretic Parfum, mostly because I'm Lee Film Theory, and I wanted to smell like an old vampire in a dank castle. Smells old. They also have my signature scent, Versace Eros, so if for some strange reason you want to smell like me, you can. Don't steal my identity.
Instead, find your own signature scent, because Scentbird has over 900 options to try without brutally murdering your wallet. You can switch it up every month for only $16.95. So hey, if you want to give Scentbird a try, click the link in our description and use the code FILMTHEORY, or just scan our QR code on screen to get 55% off your first month. Again, that's code FILMTHEORY so you can get your first fragrance for just $8 and just $16.95 the month after that.
Thanks again to Scentbird for sponsoring this theory and making sure that I don't stink. And with that, back to Invincible.
Hey,
Okay,
Tom!
that's kind of varying the
From the Game Tears! The host from the Game Tears. Hey!
lead. While the Viltrumite half of his biology would have an impact on Oliver, it wouldn't be nearly as impactful as the other half, the Thraxan. This alien species is very bug-like, and their big quirk? They age extremely quickly, with the oldest Thraxans dying in less than a year after being born. Now, because Oliver is a mix of these two species, he has a bit of an interesting dilemma. While he should have the extended lifespan of a Viltrumite, he also ages extremely quickly. Not as fast as a Thraxan, but much faster than a human. But because Thraxans age so quickly, they also learn very quickly, another trait that Oliver picked up. Yeah, despite being just a year old in Season 3, Oliver's head is packed with information, and he can rattle off stuff like all the names of the signers of the Declaration of Independence like it's
Yep, so the literal big head. 5 head.
nothing.
John Witherspoon, Oliver Walcott, George Wythe.
Bravo!
And believe it or not, but this quirk of Thraxan biology is realistic. A 2019 study showed that multiple animals with shorter lifespans, like insects and spiders, evolved to be fast learners. They concluded that when an animal needs to learn in order to access its resources, they learn at an accelerated rate so they can take advantage of those resources while they're still alive. If they don't, that's basically a giant waste for that creature. Their increased cognitive abilities may evolve quicker because they literally don't have time to learn it later. So Oliver ages and learns faster than a normal kid. Why is that something to worry about? Well, for a few reasons. First off, despite Mark and Debbie trying to give him a normal childhood, Oliver has already been exposed to some very grown-up concepts in his relatively short life. Death and destruction and violence. And while Oliver is book smart, historical facts and random trivia doesn't equate to real-life experience. There are simply things that are impossible for a person of his age to know, to understand. I mean, Debbie even said repeatedly that Mark was too young to have the responsibilities of his powers when he was just 17, 16 years older than Oliver. And she was right. I mean, I'm in my 30s and still feel like I don't really know what I'm doing. At the beginning of the series, Mark didn't know half the things he
And that is one of the reasons why, if I'm not wrong, there's a age minimum to run the government if you are the, like, I don't know, minister, deputy minister, something like that, you need to be at least this amount of age, because we all recognize that, hey, if you're 18 years old or 20 years old and you want to run the government for the entire nation, no.
Does currently, and he wasn't equipped to make a lot of the hard decisions he's had to make, let alone all the traumatic events he suffered through. And his character arc of coming to grips with a lot of that has taken seasons of this show. Now apply all that to a kid who's literally 1 year old and hasn't had time to process a lot of the complex and traumatic things that have already happened in his life. And on top of the fact that he's a gifted child, Oliver's biology will mean that no matter how hard Mark and Debbie try, he will never have a normal childhood.
Because he have not even experienced 1 year of normal, regular life as a human being on planet Earth. You know, when Earth rotates around the sun for 1 year. You get the point? That's one of the reasons why I read a lot of like research papers in which to have a good loving relationship between a couple or like spouse or like boyfriend girlfriend, at least spend 1 year together before you decide to get a ring to get engaged. At least 1 year. That's a suggestion. Because you have been through all the different holidays that is available, and you have seen how the individual have interacted with you through the holidays. So after 12 months of dating this new individual, then decide, hey, maybe it's time to settle down. Alright? Don't settle down, don't have this thought after like 1 or 2 weeks. Don't!
Oliver is very isolated. He is a tutor instead of going to school, and because of that, has few opportunities to spend time with and bond with other kids his age. Usually when a child is homeschooled, they'll still have opportunities to meet with other families or attend extracurricular activities like sports, worship, or art programs. But not Oliver. His rapid aging, purple skin, and alien parentage prevents him from doing most normal kids things, and he will age and outgrow most friends he makes within a few weeks or months. Debbie is even concerned that other children his age wouldn't accept him. That's a big deal because that sort of socialization is huge for getting kids to understand the world they live in, to have compassion and empathy for others, especially while they are suffering,
especially with peers of your age, not someone that is like super old or super young. Case in point, I can never become a bro to my own son, and my son will never treat me as a bro as to me as a father, you know, because the age difference, the priorities is just different. Alright, my wife can never be a sis to our daughter, and our daughter would never treat our wife as a sis. It's always the barrier of age, barrier of generation, and barrier of responsibility as roles and responsibility in our society. Yeah.
guess would lead us to the second big thing that would be a problem for Oliver, his psychology. This lack of empathy can be dangerous and has roots in Oliver's relationship with his father. He idolizes Nolan. Now, this in and of itself isn't necessarily bad. Children under the age of 8 typically idolize their parents, and both biologically and emotionally, Oliver definitely falls into that category. Nolan has also done some good for Oliver in his life, particularly saving Oliver's mother and helping her species when the Viltrumites came for Nolan on their planet. Now, that would be all well and good if Omni-Man were just Oliver's dad, but he's not. He's also a conqueror and a murderer. He killed the Guardians of the Globe, thousands of innocent people in Chicago, and was planning to, more or less, enslave the entire human race. Nolan caused a lot of trauma to Oliver's immediate family and to the people of Earth. Top line, this is not someone that Oliver should be idolizing, and Oliver is unable to hold Nolan accountable for these actions he didn't directly witness. Now, if this were just a case of a kid thinking his dad is super awesome, putting the good actions he did up on a pedestal while ignoring the—
And not only that, he didn't immediately witness with his own eyes, he didn't witness the immediate effect of what his father's action does. The immediate effect of the reactions, of the reviews, of people's genuine response to it immediately. So
bad, that's normal. But this becomes really concerning when Oliver starts emulating Nolan's patterns of violence. For example, when he faces off against the Maulers, he doesn't give them the same forgiveness for their past actions that he gave Omni-Man, and instead gives them the same sick brand of justice that Omni-Man would. He basically goes full one-punch kid on them even though one of them surrenders. He then lies about it, claiming repeatedly to multiple people, including his brother, that the Maulers' deaths were an accident. And on top of that, he doesn't even feel guilty for their deaths, even when everyone else around him is horrified. Oliver feels that killing the Maulers was necessary, that it was justifiable. But on top of being influenced by what he thinks Nolan would like and approve of, Oliver's psychological development is also behind other kids his physical age. Let me explain. While some infants will voluntarily act on behalf of others for no benefit of their own, kids aren't automatically born with those fully formed morals. No, morality is actually something that comes out at a later stage of childhood, as the child experiences the world. Partially, this is because of our brains literally growing bigger, but it's also partly from first-hand experiences out in the real world. Psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg developed the go-to model for moral development in children, which has been widely accepted by child psychologists, and I think it's a pretty good guide for us to place where Oliver is in his psychological development. Kohlberg's model proposes something called the Heinz dilemma. No, this isn't about whether or not you should pass the ketchup. Basically, this is a story about a man named Heinz, whose wife is dying. The medication she needs to survive is too expensive, and though he's tried to get the money legitimately, Heinz just doesn't have enough. So, the study asks, is it moral for Heinz to steal the medicine to save his wife? Whether you say yes or no didn't actually matter to Kohlberg. No, what he was more interested in was your reasoning of why it would be right or wrong. Now, this is a huge simplification of his findings, but Kohlberg discovered that children's reasoning generally changed as they got older. At first, children aged 3 to 7 would accept the morals given to them by authority figures, with their reasoning being based on the potential punishment. If an action were to lead to a punishment, then that action must be bad, right? Stealing is bad because thieves go to jail. But as the children got older, around ages 8 to 12, suddenly what they found acceptable or unacceptable was more shaped by the expectations of society. Their morality still follows the law, so sure, stealing is wrong, but Heinz should do it to save his wife, but then accept responsibility and go to jail. Now, for a lot of people, their psychological development ends right there, and that's totally valid. But as we become teenagers and enter adulthood, there's a chance that our morals will evolve again, where our sense of right and wrong is based on our personal understanding of morals and ethics. Here, the morally correct thing to do is based on things greater than society and the laws. While both of those things are important, they're still imperfect, and they can be outweighed in certain circumstances. For instance, if there's a human life on the line, that's more important than the laws against stealing. To someone with that moral framework, human life is more valuable than the money that would have been made, regardless of whether or not stealing was right or wrong in the eyes of the law. So, looking at this model and applying it to Oliver, well, he definitely isn't at that highest level of morals. I'd actually even
But however, said that it could be used as a double-edged sword by businessmen, by lawyers, by the judge, by the court. It's like in black and white, it says you cannot do this. No matter the reasoning. It's like, hey, I'm doing this to save 1 billion human beings, but you still went against the law. To save 1 billion human beings, but you still went against the law. You have to serve your crime. So, it's imperfect. Just like what Lee said.
argue that he isn't even at that second level, despite physically being at the age range that should be thinking that way. No, instead, despite being in a 10-year-old body, his moral view of the world is trapped in that of a toddler. This action would lead to punishment, so it's bad, and you should be punished for it. I mean, just look at how he responds to the Maulers and their evil plan after unaliving one of them.
That's what happens when you're a bad guy.
They were doing a bad crime, so they deserve to not even be alive. Don't get me wrong, the Maulers are bad dudes who deserve to be in jail, but killing them? That isn't a decision a kid should be making, but Oliver wants to make that decision. While debating Mark, Oliver argues that if they just kill the bad guys, then they wouldn't be hurting anybody else.
You killed killed them!
I didn't mean to, but now they won't hurt anyone else.
Because how can they do more crime if they're not alive to do said crime? It's a dark line of thought and a slippery slope, right? Plus, according to Kohlberg's research, justification of capital punishment for criminals usually falls on the lower end of that reasoning. This whole debate is actually one of the main themes of Season 3 of Invincible, since Mark is caught in the middle of Oliver and Cecil. One side wants to just kill all the criminals to be the good guys and protect the world, while the other wants to rehabilitate the bad guys so they can become the good ones to save the world.
We can be the good guys, or we can be the guys that save the world. We can't be both.
Just saying, that's some great writing here. But despite all of this, Oliver is still a kid. It is still possible that his moral compass can keep cooking and that he'll become less murdery as he grows older, right?
Okay, I'm gonna share with you one personal story. It's gonna be long. You can skip this part. Please don't mind me. Please don't skip this part. Okay. I got this inject back in my NS service. I got this inject. There was this newspaper clipping on his office, in which instead of sending the soldiers to DB, send them to leadership courses. And this newspaper article has been there from start to end of my service. And it sends a message that is a constant reminder that he always sees the light in people. And it shapes me differently. That he's willing to give the chance to other people. Maybe they don't know what they don't know. They really don't know what society expects them to do. Send them to courses. Send them to leadership courses. If you don't know, have someone teach you. If you still don't know this sort of common sense that people take you for granted for it, fake it until you make it. That's what my master from Taekwondo mentioned, so yeah. Fake it until you make it.
Well, maybe, but that leads us to concern number 3, Oliver's personality. Why is that? Well, because he's a whole lot like his father when it comes to his personality, exhibiting symptoms of what's known as the Dark Triad. Now, besides sounding just like a sick-as-heck band name, the Dark Triad is a mixture of antisocial personality traits that increase the chance that you'll be drawn to a life of crime. Again, that is a very, very broad overview and paints a lot of people with just a single brush. Not everyone with these personality traits will become a mass murderer, but they will be at a higher risk. So, what are these personality traits? Well, first up, there's narcissism. This is a clinical term that describes a person with a sense of heightened arrogance. They will feel superior to everyone else around them, just like Oliver feeling that he and Mark are better than humans because they have superpowers.
Look, it's always inevitable that we are all humans. 人非圣贤孰能无过 Humans are not saints. Everybody makes mistakes. And arrogance is part and parcel of all humans being true. But it's heightened arrogance as per mentioned. So it's more arrogant than what we commonly associate with ourselves with. So yeah.
Kill each other all the time, and most people aren't even special like us. They're just
Sorry.
normal.
Seems like a textbook example of
Sorry.
are better than humans.
No.
Term that describes a person with a sense of heightened arrogance. They
Heightened arrogance, not normal arrogance that you and I will have, but heightened, like more higher extreme level.
will feel superior to everyone else around them, just like Oliver feeling that he and Mark are better than humans because they have superpowers.
People kill each other all the time, and most people aren't even special like us. They're just normal.
Seems like a textbook example of narcissistic thinking, right? The second trait is psychopathy, which in and of itself is not actually a clinical or mental health term. It's more of a cultural understanding than an actual thing you can be diagnosed with. Anyway, a psychopath has a complete lack of empathy and remorse, just like Oliver's lack of remorse for killing the Maulers.
What?
Like, Kid is just standing there, literally dripping in the blood of his enemies, hoping for a high five from his brother. The third trait is what is known as Machiavellianism. Basically, this is another non-clinical word that refers
Okay, that is a pretty long word.
to someone who is highly manipulative. A Machiavellian person is usually very smart, in line with Oliver's rapid learning, and uses that intelligence to lie. And oh boy, does Oliver lie and manipulate his way through this entire season, evolving how he tells his lies with each mistakes he makes along the way. For example, when he wants to go out and be a superhero, he quickly figures out that the best way to do that is by convincing Mark and Debbie that he has pure intentions. When he gets in trouble for following Mark into a fight, he insists that he only did it because he was worried, when clearly he just wanted to be part of the action. And of course, after murdering the Mahler twins, he lies and tells everyone that it was an accident, because he can tell from everyone's reaction that being honest would get him in trouble.
I didn't mean it. It was an accident.
That is 3 for 3 for the dark triad traits, putting Oliver in a precarious position. So with all of that in mind, Oliver's biology, psychology, and the dark triad of personality traits he's showing, will Invincible have to worry about his little brother turning into the biggest villain he has to face? Of a new, even worse Omni-Man? Well, maybe, but not necessarily, because there is a big X factor here. The difference maker between Oliver and the other Viltrumites like Nolan.
He is still young. His brain is it's what do you call it? Neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity. I'm bad with pronouncing the words. It's a very long word.
Is that Oliver does have the foundations of a strong moral compass in his family. Mark and Debbie and even Eve. We have to remember, even though he has the powers of a Viltrumite, which is akin to a god to normal people, Oliver is still a literal child. He's still learning and growing and developing. His personality and worldview are still solidifying. And thankfully, Mark and Debbie have taken positive steps towards diverting Omni-Man 2.0 and raising a super kid who can use his powers to help instead of hurt. In the aftermath of each of Oliver's misadventures, they've taken great care to explain to him why his actions were wrong. And while it's hard to punish a kid who can outfly you when you try to ground them, they're both instilling Oliver with a sense of confidence in his ability to do the right thing next time. And even if he continues to display those dark triad traits as he gets older, that also isn't necessarily a bad thing. Studies have shown that a lot of high-performance careers are pursued by people who exhibit narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism, including stuff in as wide a range as law enforcement to professional athleticism. Basically, a lot of people are able to take those potentially negative traits and direct them towards something positive, allowing them to use their competitiveness and desire to get ahead in a way that's a net good. If he were just a normal kid without powers, that might be something like winning the Super Bowl or killing it at the halftime show. But for Oliver, that could instead be focused into heroics, saving lives, and stopping catastrophes to become the best hero in the world. For what it's worth, while we must remember that Oliver is part Viltrumite, and they can be a ruthless, destructive people, he's also part Thraxan, a people who knew that every single day was precious because they could end so quickly. And while Oliver's Viltrumite DNA might make it difficult for that Thraxan heritage to shine through, well, even Nolan, a pure-blooded Viltrumite, was able to fight his internal programming and abandon his mission to destroy the Earth, all because of the people in his life softening his rough edges. And let's face it, if that mustachioed murder man can change his moral compass, so can this baby-faced boy. But hey, thanks again to Scentbird for sponsoring this theory. Smelling good ain't a superpower, guys. So use code FILMTHEORY to get your first fragrance for just $8 and just $16.95 the month after that. And as always, remember that it's all just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Up next on Film Theory.
What will you have after 500 years?
Huh, not a bad question. Sounds like an episode of
Film Theory! Well, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed. I'm glad that this video from the film theorists ended with a positive note. It is very uplifting to see that, hey, there's mistakes made, but there's time. There is potential for positive things to occur. Even more positive things to occur. And thank you so much for teaching us about such positive things. Thank you so much, Lee. You did a great job. And the team behind these videos, thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoyed. But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory! And cut! Subscribe.